So yeah, thanks for giving me some room to tell a bit about the HoloLens 2. So I've chosen a couple of slides to give a bit of a heads up of what the HoloLens 2 can do, some of the features and some of the future things that probably will come up to the market in the upcoming period. For the people who do not know me, my name is Tim Hermans, working for Recreate. Within Recreate, I'm responsible helping customers to make use of augmented, mixed and virtual reality. And what I always say, I'm a big whiskey enthusiast, so that's the only thing you need to remember about me. As discussed earlier, we have really good connections with Microsoft. Meaning that we also speak a lot with them about how the HoloLens is being used, and we were also informed quite early about new features and new releases. And a picture I typically show when we have people visiting our office or when we do sales demos regarding the HoloLens 2, I always show these pictures because it's really funny to see how the development journey from an R&D perspective to the actual HoloLens 2 looks like. These were actual prototypes that were used in the US to really tailor-made and check and develop the software that's running on the HoloLens 2. The HoloLens 2, of course, suggests that there is a HoloLens 1, and that's obviously true. It was quite a cool device that's already on the market for a long period, and the HoloLens 2 really was an evolution. For people who work with mixed reality, they probably have seen or wear the HoloLens 1 in all kind of trade shows or those kind of events. And the HoloLens 2 really is a next level device. So it's typically like any other electronic device, which is a newer version. It's better, faster, lighter, and has more functions and features. That's exactly what the HoloLens 2 offers at the moment. For the people who know the HoloLens 1, and we also played a lot with it, there were a couple of remarks that we already had, that it sometimes was a bit difficult to wear it. The field of view was not that good. It was okay, but there was a lot of room for improvement. And also for people, it was sometimes a bit tricky and difficult to actually make use of the HoloLens. And with the HoloLens 2, there were a couple of really big improvements made. And I've put also some videos in this slide deck to give you an idea of how that enhancements look like. But in general, what I personally really like, and I think the HoloLens 2 is now on the market for, I think, more than 1.5 years. So hopefully a lot of people already have experienced this device themselves in this period. But the feedback that we get is that one of the big improvements is the field of view. So the way how the view is being created is completely changed, resulting in a 2 times larger field of view in this device. What I also like from a wearable perspective is that the ergonomics is are improved significantly. It's much easier to wear the HoloLens 2 and to keep it on your head for a longer time frame. And the area where I think a lot of improvement has been made are the gestures. So the way how you can control the holographics with the HoloLens. So the hand gestures, tracking it with your hands, are improved significantly, making it easier for people to use, and also the adoption for new people who have never wear a HoloLens before. It's been increased significantly, allowing new people to get used to it on a faster pace. If we see how the HoloLens currently is operating, you see that the universal fit, or the way how you can wear the HoloLens, is changed a lot. You can always wear it a bit more like a baseball hat. You can put it on your head, also allowing it for people to wear it for a whole shift, for example. I can recall that for the HoloLens 1, you had the famous red band of the HoloLens 1 on your forehead. If you wore it for more than 30 minutes or an hour, it really started to get really annoying. Now, with the new HoloLens, we also have customers who really use it from a medical perspective, filming, for example, a medical surgery. They can last up to 10 or 12 hours, and they are able to wear it for that whole period of time. So from a universal fit, it's really improved, so it's much easier to wear. Also, the pivoting visor is a huge improvement, especially when you have it on your head and not using the holographic features. You can simply pivot your visor and have normal eyesight. You can imagine if you have a face-to-face conversation and you wear a HoloLens, it can be quite awkward. With the new pivoting visor, you can simply pivot the visor up, also starting the standby mode of the HoloLens so that you can utilize the battery for a longer time period. And when you're not wearing it, it's much better for your eyes. Of course, if you look the whole time through a visor, it can be a bit more annoying for yourself, and it's sometimes more difficult to be aware of your surroundings. And with the pivoting visor, that problem is not there anymore. What I personally enjoy the most is the field of view. This is a nice video showing the field of view of the HoloLens 1 versus the HoloLens 2, and you can see that it's almost increased 2 times, especially when you look to larger holographics, or you really would like to do, for example, step-by-step instructions on the machine. You do not have to move your head that much anymore, because you simply can place the holographics next to the device without having the need of changing your field of view. So that's a big improvement. And also, if you would like to visualize really big holographics, with the HoloLens 1, you really have to do a couple of steps back to see the whole holographics thing that we visualized in the HoloLens. And now with the HoloLens 2, you simply can put larger items closer to your eyesight, making it easier to wear. Also, the display has been changed significantly. This is a nice visualization on how they achieved the bigger field of view. So there's a complex mechanism of mirrors in the HoloLens, really enhancing the field of view beam, also allowing the field of view to be 2 times as big as it was at the HoloLens 1. So this was a really critical improvement from a hardware perspective. And also something that we use a lot from a recreate perspective is that now the HoloLens 2 really has a good depth sensor in it. The Kinect that probably a lot of people know from the Xbox series of Microsoft has evolved. The depth sensor that's in the HoloLens is basically a Kinect sensor on steroids, allowing the HoloLens to really make a good mesh 10 meters in front of the user wearing the HoloLens. So it can really do a good spatial mapping of the world around you. Also allowing you to place holographics really good in that mesh. Also resulting in that if you place a HoloLens on a fixed position in the world around you, it actually stays there. You can really interact with it quite well, and it also keeps track of the surroundings. For example, if you'd like to place a machine on the table, the HoloLens recognizes the table to assure that that 3D object is also placed on the surface. So that gives a lot of options. What we also use, and maybe that's a bit of a sidestep, but we also see that this depth sensor or the Kinect camera is now also available as a separate device. So if you simply would like to use object recognition, or you would like to do those kind of things with machine learning or object recognition, there's also the Kinect SDK, which is basically a standalone version of this depth sensor in combination with a camera, opening a lot of new possibilities from a use case perspective. Also, the spatial audio is improved. Basically, if I explain new customers what the HoloLens 2 is, it's basically a Windows 10 device that you can put on your head. There's a microphone in it, there are speakers in it. There are, of course, also options to connect it with other audio devices. The device as such is enabled with Bluetooth, so we can also connect it with, for example, noise cancellation headphones or noise cancellation earplugs, especially for organizations who use it in noisy environments. It can be really interesting. Later, you will see that there is also a version of the HoloLens integrated in a hard hat that even works with bone conducting audio. So also if you really use it in heavy construction or in very noisy production environments, you still can make use of the audio features without the risk that people get damage on their hearings. Another thing that I use a lot doing the demos myself is that the HoloLens 2 also is completely voice controlled. So you can control it with hand gestures, but also there's a huge list of voice commands that you can use to really operate the HoloLens hands-free. You can imagine for assembly scenarios or production scenarios, it can be really useful. And here you can see the areas where the microphones are being located to ensure that you can always speak to your HoloLens. And again, one of the big enhancements with the HoloLens 2 are the hand gestures. Here you can see a couple of examples that you not only can control the holographics with your with a left mouse cursor and a white dot you have to place on the holographics. With the new HoloLens 2, you simply hold on a holographic icon, place it freely in the world, make it bigger, make it larger, so it interacts much better with the hand gestures that are now supported. Also, eye tracking is included. This can be used on two ways. One, you can use it from an iris scan. Security is always an important topic for our customers. So you can unlock the HoloLens with an iris scan. That's of course better than a PIN code. And it also keeps track on what you're reading. So for example, if you have a big text for a work instruction, and I'm not advising to do a lot of texting in the HoloLens, but if you have a couple of lines that you need to read, you can see that the HoloLens automatically scrolls down to really give you that hands-free experience. The laser display we already mentioned a bit. This is also an area how, from a hardware-wise, they solve the issue of really making the field of view better. Of course, when you have a newer version of a device, hardware is always better, faster, lighter, easier to use. And these are also one of the involvements how Microsoft really mastered the way of converting a small field beam into a bigger field of view. And an area that we use a lot to make apps even smarter is the spatial mapping. This is what I explained at the beginning. This is the output of the 3D sensor that's on the HoloLens. And this is the spatial mapping that's been made if you look at it from a technical perspective. This is a Microsoft slide, so I have to be honest, if you really look into the mesh that the HoloLens 2 has been creating, it's not as detailed as you can see in this side. I'm not going to say that if you scan a desk with chairs, that you actually can see that it's a chair. But if you log in from the spatial mapping, you can at least see that there is a blob that will be used to place holographics correctly in the world surrounding you. Last, what I would like to share about the HoloLens as such is that the HoloLens 2, when it was released, there only was a development variation of it. As you can see over here, probably the edition that a lot of people have seen before. Microsoft is also investing a lot to make industry-specific solutions. An option that we sell a lot is the Trimble XR10 that's integrated in a hard hat, which can be used on construction sites. We also do a lot in the high-tech industry, and important to state out is that there's now also an HoloLens 2 Industrial Edition that also can be used in clean rooms. So that has a couple of certifications. You can see them, the ISO 14644 and an ISO class 5.0 classification that it actually can be used in clean rooms. And one of the biggest users at the moment in the Netherlands of the HoloLens is actually ASML. I believe they have almost 300 HoloLenses up and running, and they use them, of course, in clean rooms all over the world. So you also see that Microsoft is going to adapt HoloLenses to make them suitable for specific business scenarios. So that's important to state out. So also, if you would like to use this device in more rough environments, there's no reason to not use it anymore. That basically was in 10 minutes a brief overview of the HoloLens 2, which easily can take up to a couple of hours. But hopefully this gives a bit of a glimpse on the developments made, some of the new industry-specific solutions that will be on the market in the upcoming period. And curious to know if there are any questions from the people attending the session today.
Tim, it's very interesting, and thank you for the information. Can you tell something about how long does the battery take? I know if you have to use it the whole day. I think the Oculus can last 2 hours of battery, and this device?
Yeah, it depends on how you use it. If you, for example, use it with remote assist to do remote craftsmanship, it can last up to 2.5 to 3 hours. Okay. I give the example that we also have a couple of customers in the medical industry that really record operations. Then you can simply connect it with an external power bank to play and charge the device at the same time. So there are a couple of workarounds. The battery is not interchangeable, like for example on the RealWear. So you really have to charge it with a power bank.
And second question, how intense is it? If you had it on your head for 2 hours, is it very intense, or can you handle it?
It requires some practice. I'm not going to say that you're not aware of it. If you wear it for a longer time, you are a bit more tired than if you not wear the HoloLens. But if you get used to it, it's manageable to work a whole shift with it. We have customers really use it the whole shift. On the other end, with the new pivoting visor, it also results that you do not have to look through the glass to the lens the whole time. That makes it also easier to operate. Okay. Good questions, Lucas, by the way.
Tim, one question for me. How's your experience till now in bright sunlight, so outdoor use?
Yeah, that's tricky. We have printed a couple of sun visors that we developed together with another party that you can place on the outside of the HoloLens and still be able to use it indoors. In general, 3D holographics in the outside world are complex. We are now also finalizing and development we're doing to make a HoloLens in a hard hat with a GPS sensor to also have on the outside world a centimeter accurate GPS location to visualize BIM models. And there we also placed a sun filter on the HoloLens to also be able to use it outside. But it's not ideal. Right now we have a solution that's workable, that's okay-ish. But bright sunlight and 3D visualizations are not always the best match made in heaven.
So it's kind of a sunglass. You add the extra sunglass to have a darker.
A darker foil that we can place on the outside of the HoloLens, and then that makes it better to operate in the outside world.
All right, thanks.
Tim, thank you for your presentation. I see one question of Robert Jan Kooi in chat. Maybe you can answer the question in the chat. I give the microphone to Bart Kok for the Oculus Quest 2 to look at the time frame. So if you please answer the question in the chat, then
will do.
Please, Bart, can you take over?
Yeah. So I had a bit of a problem. I had the COVID virus, and then my kids had it, so I've been in quarantine for about 2 weeks, and was supposed to get this virtual event of the Industry Reality Hub out there. So I didn't had a lot of time to preparing a presentation. So instead, I thought to myself, why not gather a group of links and video clips and make a story about that, about some interesting information I can tell you guys about the company that runs Oculus Quest, but also the device itself and things happening on the near future on the horizon of this interesting technology. So talking about the Oculus Quest, of course, it's a standalone headset. For me, the adventure started a couple of years ago. So what you can see here is in 2012, during the original Kickstarter, I had one of the 3 prototypes on my face for the original VR headset that Paul Malucki later on, to be kicked out of the company, got a few billion for it. So yeah, he did quite nice. And already then I saw the potential. So we started with the Kickstarter, and from there on it was a bit of a roller coaster. And yeah, we continued developing VR applications, and now we are working on this really cool platform, Connect 2. So talking about the all-in-one, all-for-one Oculus Quest. For us, it's not just VR. It's one of actually the VR headset, because we started with all these tethered headsets, a lot of technology, but as soon as the headsets became self-aware, it became really interesting to use for various reasons. And there's a lot of stuff you can say about the technology, but again, it is benefiting from also a lot of developments on the AR field. So like Tim previously mentioned in his presentation, the spatial mapping is something that Oculus is developing for their own AR headset, which I can show you a sneak peek at the end. But it is used to make this VR headset possible. So it's really interesting to see that probably both technologies, and maybe in this point, VR is benefiting more from AR than the opposite side, but it can benefit each other. So the reason why we choose for the Oculus Quest is it's a self-contained device. So I gathered some clips here and some other information, and I will continue. Just to give you guys a glimpse on how it works, it has 4 cameras on the headset, and it is self-aware. And they can do a lot of this. So this is basically the beginning of this technology Facebook is developing also for its AR headsets. So you can imagine that currently they can detect and spatial map the surroundings around you. But they're even so close they can already start recognizing certain specific objects. So not only is it dots, it can detect it's a chair, it's a table, it's whatever. And that's something they will continue to develop further on the road for their AR headset, because there is a lot of interesting stuff you can do. And as you can see, the controllers are being tracked by the cameras as well. So in this way, you can set up the system anywhere without ease. And for us, we want to make a low friction and an easy to use platform. It really makes the difference, because as you can see, you can just set it up in your living room, and you don't need a setup, not a specific place. And also, it can be more a personal device. So if you're talking about hygiene, we'd rather have your own headset, then starting to share one on a specific place because it is set up there and you have to use that specific item. Also costs, it's really cheap, probably because Facebook is selling it way too cheap. They just want to create the market. There's some good things and bad things to be said about that. The good thing is they are doing it right. And I don't think without Facebook, the developments of VR would have been as far as they are. And also, I think, in some near future, it would be interesting to have more of these partners with the same quality and high standards. But again, this is just to show you how it works. For those who didn't know, this is the Quest 1, is a black one. The new one is more white grayish. As for us, like I already mentioned, we are working on this platform, and we are also a independent software vendor for the Oculus for Business program. So that's something I want to address. I already did that in my previous presentation. So this is a document I can still share you with who's interested later on. But of course, when you're talking about the Oculus Quest, you're talking about Facebook, and people are going to say, oh, that's bad. Facebook is going to share all your data. Well, that's not really the case. They have a specific software vendor program where they can supply the software through Oculus for Business, which is actually the same headset, but with a different price tag and with no data gathering information from Facebook. I'm not sure if I can. I need to click this here and let's see how I fix that. Also, what's really interesting for us, that's one of the reasons we are staying with Oculus for right now, is they keep improving their device later on. So we already saw this 1 year into the production of the Quest 1. It kept getting really cool updates. So when the original Quest 1 came out, it didn't have any hand tracking. That came out a year later with the same hardware for free. And also with the new headset, the Oculus Quest 2, this is actually an update which was not really long ago, 14th of April. They introduced really cool new features like Oculus Air, which means you can actually use this headset on the same network as a high-end PC and use PC VR applications, but without the need of having all the cables, without the extra sensors. As long as it is a solid network and you have a good connection on 5G on your network, you can actually stream without any latency issues this high-end quality content as well. So really interesting if you're really into these specific details and you want to have the most nice details in your application. It is possible with the Quest and a powerful PC. But in such a way, you can still do untethered connections without the need of having special add-ons and all kinds of wireless tools like probably you have on the HTC Vive. Also, what's really interesting is they're working on Infinite Office, which is more like an umbrella term of what they see as interacting with the real world. So, of course, you have something like a AR device like the HoloLens. And like I will show you further on down the road, Facebook is also working on AR. But what Oculus also really believes, and I think that as well, is that AR is going to be really cool, or is already really cool, but still there are some drawbacks. And I think for some applications, there's going to be an in-between period in which see-through optics like the HoloLens and a pass-through display on a VR device can compete with one another until the AR devices are getting a really large field of view and will work outside, of course, with sunshine, like mentioned. There's going to be a time and a place for a VR headset which can actually have yourself be aware of its surroundings and can interact with it. So that's something I can show you as well, and what cool stuff you can do with that. And of course, already now the headset started with 60 hertz, and now they already support 120 hertz for really nice, low friction display images, so it gets really easy to look at. So I want to click on the next step, but I have to do it like this. Also really interesting, talking about the Infinite Office thing, is like they are working together with Logitech. And what Logitech did, they had this keyboard, and together with Oculus, they made the keyboard workable in VR, which means the headset itself, together with the hand tracking it already has, will detect the keyboard and will place a virtual counterpart on the same spot. And as soon as when you move your hands towards these keys, you will see your own fingers and you can type inside of the virtual space. So this is a really great win for VR, because text input is something which is really heinous when you wanted to do with just controllers and a virtual keyboard floating in the air. So again, this is just the first of many steps. And I can already predict, of course, this is going to be something in the future that will probably recognize every keyboard, because it's so obvious that every keyboard is almost the same. But they tried this now with this, but I can imagine that in the future it will detect the keystrokes and it will generate some sort of general keyboard type of 3D model that corresponds with those keys. Well, again, I can show you a bit on how this works. So there's this small clip, shows you a brief set of clips. So again, although it is VR, you can take it anywhere, like I mentioned, really to set up. And then their goal is to make this virtual office in which you can have multiple screens and also interact with this keyboard. And of course, this is something more like a concept. It's not really that broad available yet. And also the keyboard seeing here is already on the back order for a couple of months because of the high interest right now. But as you can see right now, they want to blend the virtual and this real life world together, and in such a way right now with just some proprietary stuff in their own space. But at some point they will release this to the SDK as well. And of course, we as a developer can start interacting and using this as well. And I'm really looking forward to this seamless blending of technology inside the real world, inside the virtual world, to get this really cool hybrid combination of stuff. And again, this was more like a preview from 1 year ago. I think on this side, which is more like a month ago, you can see how it works right now. So it will detect your hands. It will show a pass-through. This is like really, how do you say it, spatial information. So the hands are actually there where they should be. It's not like a flat image of your hand. It is black and white currently. And if your hand is too far, it will go to this 3D model. But you can see already this is something people can really use and start typing on as well. So that's really cool. Talking about the hand tracking, this is some cool stuff I want to share with you guys, just so you guys know where stuff is currently already at, so you know and might expect what improvements will arrive, maybe not only in future software updates for the already existing Quest 2, but maybe for the upcoming model, which they probably will announce somewhere in September. So of course you have this hand tracking. I'll show you small clips of this thing, and it really looks really well. So you get this guy smiling. I'm not sure if we can show you something else. Short clips, but you can see it really mimics the hands really well already. But of course there's some problems. So the problems are when you have the headset on, of course, there's 4 cameras around here, and you have something that is called occlusion. That's something that you might want to look into, as when you have this flashlight in the dark, and you have this tree in the forest. When you light your flashlight to the tree, it will cast shadow on the backward of the tree because the tree is in the way of your light. Well, the same is with these beams of your cameras. If you have your hand tracking on and you have one hand and you're going to combine them, of course, it will not detect the other hand because it's on the back of the other. So what happened in the first edition of the hand tracking was that as soon as you move the hands closer to each other, like really close, they both disappeared. And with software updates, machine learning and AI, it now already detects the hand in front. So when you move 2 hands closer to each other, the hand in front of you will still operate normally. So that's already improvement. But of course, you want your hands to be actually foolproof. Well, the cool thing is they already have that working. So to give you guys a glimpse of where hand tracking is already at, but currently in a lab setting, but you can imagine this technology coming closer within a year or maybe 2 years tops, it already looks like this. So this is actual hand tracking, and they're going to show you a couple of things. That's, by the way, the cool thing about Facebook. They not only research a lot of topics, they also share a lot of their research results, not only in video clips, but also on GitHub with actual code and stuff you can actually use for your own project. So that's really cool. Again, not something you would suggest, by Facebook, being an all this evil American company, but they actually do give a lot back to the community as well.
Bart, can you go to the last glimpse?
Yeah, so I'm going to go really quick, but as you can see already, it's really top notch. It can do everything. It can even detect if the skin is moving. Also really interesting to note that 20% of Facebook's employees, which are a lot, are all working on this technology. So there's a lot of stuff happening. And to give you guys a good glimpse on that, they're already working on their AR headsets, which are much more usable than the HoloLens, but they have a different take. So instead of using all the spatial information, which the HoloLens is really good at, they're probably going for self-awareness and showing the right information at the right time. More like a hybrid combination of Google Glass and the HoloLens in a form factor which is more wearable. Also interesting to note is they're doing a lot of research topics, like I mentioned. And if you guys look into this guy, Michael Abrish, he worked at really interesting positions at Microsoft during Windows 2000 era. Also did a lot of other cool stuff. He can explain as the Chief Technology Officer a lot of stuff they're working on. So this is one of their half-dome prototypes, which they already had to get more like a really large field of view. But what's even more cooler, as it progressed, they were trying to mimic the way the eye focus. Because right now when you're in VR, of course it's real and it all looks like it's there, but it's all sharp on the same level. And what they're trying to do is more like show the way depth actually works in real life when you focus on an object which is in front of something or not. Really interesting to watch this clip. Also, I'm just going to clip it forward, is of course avatars. And as you can see, they can already do this so well, especially when it starts moving. I think it's here. You don't see the difference anymore because of machine learning and because of the tech, how the real avatar, this is just a camera feedback and this is a 3D model. And again, to make this 3D model, obviously you will need a lot of technology right now, but they can already have it working. So imagine, now you know why Facebook is getting into VR. This is their new Facebook 2.0. It will take some time, of course, to get to this level for consumer products, but it's already out there in terms of technology. And again,
I can listen to you for hours. It's great.
Yeah. So again, just a lot of information. And if you have any more questions, don't feel free to just email me or whatever.
I've got one question. You don't have to answer it right now because we're stepping up to Emmanuel for the looking glass display, the 8K. But for the event it's coming up, is there a new way to build our own avatar?
Yes.
You can send it by mail or you send it in.
People can make their own avatar, and we'll get that out there on terms of how to do that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. If you have questions, please in the chat, because I did ask Emmanuel also to prepare some things, and I'd like to give him the time to present his contest. If you're ready. Yes.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
I assume that you can see me
Yeah.
on my screen. My name is Emanuel Botsianakis. I work for the Dutch Organization of Applied Research, aka TNO. And today I'm going to talk to you about the job we are doing in the media team on the Looking Glass 8K and present you the device itself as well. So when it comes generally to volumetric displays, we do have the concept of non-2D images being around since, as you can see on your left, from the 19th century, where we can have like basically two images with parallax, and when people see them, assume that it has a sense of depth in it. And the same technology was used up to a few years ago with 3D TV and 3D cinema, etc., etc. So what's the difference between the technology of which is 200 years old and the technology of the looking glass? Is basically that we went from having a perception of depth to having a perception of space. And the way this is achieved is by actually seeing a difference on how you move with regards to the actual screen. On your right, you can see different examples for volumetric displays. Most of them are basically prototypes that never actually left the lab. But what we have here with the looking glass is an actual device that hit the market. So originally we had the small version of the looking glass, and since last year we have the 8K looking glass. Basically, what the looking glass is a true volumetric display, which means by true is that you can actually see the difference according to the angle you're facing with the screen, plus the depth that you have with traditional 3D TV. This is optics based, which means that you do not have to wear any glasses, or it doesn't do any tracking in order to achieve this. It's purely on the physics of the screen, and it has horizontal holography, meaning that the differences you see is only when you move yourself to the horizontal axis, and not to the vertical yet. You can see some specification. What is interesting is the field of view, which right now is at 50 degrees. And also it has a viewing range up to 10 meters. And as a hint, with some tests we did at the lab, basically it's even larger than this, longer than this, but you lose the parallax effect. So basically it becomes after that a 2D screen, and has a 60 Hertz refresh rate, which is quite important not to tire the eyes. And when it comes to actually formats that they are supported, is we can have 3D models that they are used since 20 years now, a huge variation of it, and they're adding support for even more. We can have plugins from game engines, or what they have now, what they call the Quilt, which is a multi-view image video format that we will see later. As you noticed, what is missing is light field imaging from the formats, even though it's supposed to be a light field display. So speaking generally about the concept of light field is that instead of having several views to represent the scene and basically storing color values, we are basically trying to represent the way the light travels through a point in space. What it means in simple terms is that instead of having an image that gives you some variations according to the angle you are looking at, is that you have a virtual space that gives you variations according to the actual position you have. So basically it means that it's not like VR, it's not like 360, it's something different that will allow us to have like a video-like format for holographic displays. We have two decent efforts, one from MPEG and one from Google, but we are not there yet because they are quite heavy and bulky, so we cannot have them in everyday use, which is okay because we see optimizations coming along the way, and it's going to be really useful when it arrives. And for now, we have the formats that we mentioned before. Over here, you can see the different possibilities offered by the device. What you see on the left is what is proposed by the Looking Glass itself on their website. We have also studied on the right. What you see with the asterisks is we have run actual experiments about it, and the rest are different use cases we have thought. What is interesting is that you will see later in the short videos is that we can also have everyday use cases, for example, when it comes to advertisements that can be used in conjunction with current TV setups, and to more exotic like collaborative 3D design, which is not something we are used to, but it's possible that it's coming soon. And to get a bit more details on what we are doing in the lab is basically we have a 3 axes of research. One is generally on immersive media formats and delivery, which is our bread and butter, being a media lab in a networks department. And we are studying different formats. As you can see to your left is the Quilt format I mentioned before, which is basically a multi-view format consumed by the Looking Glass display, one of the formats supported. We are doing some benchmarking and quality of experience because often you hear promises by the manufacturers, but they do not meet the expectations. And for example, here you see a quilt like this that we are using to see how many views you can see at the time by the brightness you see here of the numbers. And we also do design and prototyping of various applications and use cases. But without further ado, I'm going to show you a couple of very short demos. Those are actually recordings we did in the lab. Unfortunately, when I was recording the video, I was not expecting them to be public, so they're not of very good quality, but please forgive me about that. So the first video is a simple recording of a 3D engine, and you will see as the camera moves that the actual point of the engine that you see changes according to the angle. And this is what we mean by true horizontal holography. So you basically see parts of the engine that you wouldn't see. Obviously, you do not have the 3D effect since it's recorded by a camera, but you can see the holographic effect in action. In reality, because we have 2 eyes, basically you also see it in 3D with the holographic effect. Our next video is something that it's on a 2D context, and basically what we have here is you will see there is a Heineken logo, which is a hypothetical advertisement company, and we are watching a game. So instead of having real estate of the ads on where you see it on the screen, you can have real estate according to the angle. As you see people on the right, they will see the Heineken effect ad, and the people on the left, they will see the U-pillar. So this is something that is obviously backwards compatible with traditional TV since the content is 2D, but can also add some extra value to the virtual context. Over here, instead of split screen, we have the split content, which basically means we can even have people wanting to watch different content, 2D content, and according to the angle that they're watching, they can watch different programs. This is some of the features that you see that we designed based on what we are used to having with 2D TV and can have backwards compatibility. But obviously, they are made possible only by the optics that this holographic display provides. And the final video is something that actually uses a 3D feature. Over here, we have a hypothetical advertisement for a car. And as you can see, there is a 3D model overlaid on top of it. So people that have the looking glass display can see the 3D model. You can see that it's actual 3D because of the speed it rotates as I move the camera around. While people that have the old TV will still be able to watch the ad. In front of the screen, you will see a lip motion, which can be used also to interact with the 3D content of the display. So we even go further the static video content, and we can have this combination of 3D models with video, which can also introduce some sort of interactivity. I try to be as short as possible in order to catch up for the lost time. And so that's it from me. And I will be glad to hear any possible questions you might have.
Emmanuel, thank you. Very interesting movement, because I think there's a lot of possible with this technology. So I would suggest that people can look back at the presentation, and if they have any questions, they can ask you into the chat, and you can answer in the chat the questions. And I see no raising the hand, so I would like to give the voice to Herman Auerkerk from Deventer to present his company listed online, and they like to join the Industrial Reality Hub, so they have a presentation about their company and what they are doing. So I think, Herman, are you ready for your show? Herman, I did see him in the participants, so I'm looking for, is he still in? Yes, Herman Auerkerk.
Herman is in a meeting.
Ah.
I will wake him up.
Wake him up. Oh, then Emmanuel, you can answer some questions in the meanwhile, if there are any. So I try to scope it in 1 hour, the session. There's a lot of things to see and discuss.
The looking glass, is that commercial, and what would be the price?
Well, for the 8K, I do not know the price because we actually pre-ordered and negotiated about it. There are several. It is quite pricey though. However, there are a couple of more affordable models as well. There is one that it's, I think, 12-inch, which is what we were using before acquiring the 8K for prototyping. And recently they just released what is called the portrait mode, which is basically in the size of a mobile phone. And I think that one is around 200 or 300 euros, which is the cheapest model so far.
Okay.
If the 8K is about 35,000 euro, the developer's kit.
Yes, I think this is about right.
Yes.
Okay. This is, in the meantime, Maurice is trying to get attention from Herman. It's also possible, Herman, if you're not ready to use the next. Every month we have an online meeting, but on the online meeting, Bart, maybe you can tell something, because you offered to use the Connect 2 platform to meet again. So maybe it's also good to discuss, will it be available for a next meeting, or what? How do you see it then?
Yeah, so what I mentioned in my email earlier is we're going to make this private and personal space for our hub.
Yes.
In which we can do these sessions on a really different way. And I think if you guys would experience that, it's a whole lot better than doing these kinds of sessions, especially when you have these talks with more than 5 people, and this is a talk with, I guess, over 20 people, it will really shine, and how easy, how much more interaction you get in VR. Also, we could divide the talks in such a manner you can just have a talk in one session and have a separate breakout session for something else. Something which is even possible in Teams, but maybe if you guys tried it already, it doesn't really work that well. And yeah, we would like to offer that whole platform just as long as we are partner of the hub.
Yeah, and I think because our next session planned is on June the 10th, but it's also together with our event. So I think that session I will dismiss that session because it is doubling, but maybe it's a good one. I will look after June. Do you have July? Do you have a session in July and meeting from the hub? Looking. Yes, we have an Industrial Reality Hub meeting on July 8th.
Okay, let me see.
Maybe that's a good one to start try the Connect 2 platform.
July 8th? Yeah, sure.
Yes. But I think this meeting is ending in 2 or 3 minutes. I think for listed online, I'll plan a new meeting in so they can present themselves. I think technically something is not going well at this moment, so we have a new option. And then we're going to the end of this meeting. But you did mention in your chat function that an after is available. You will send an email how to create an after on a new way, or?
Yeah, there will be some follow-up information emails. So right now we just finished setting up all the parties who are going to speak. I'm going to settle with them first, make sure they get in contact with each other so they can have a nice, good story. Yeah. And expect in the next week a lot of information coming to everybody else. But like we already mentioned, Christian and me do share the invitation already, so we get more people. And then we get this simple message to you on how to create an avatar. It's really easy.
Great. I see, but Leo has a question at this moment. Or Leo is just waving.
No, I'm not just waving.
Okay.
I just got a tip for you guys. If you are users of the Oculus tool, yesterday I found out my son ordered a new foam for the Oculus tool, for those who don't have it, because as you probably know, the foam is really foamy, and if you send in a support request, you can get a synthetic leather foam for your Oculus, for those who
Okay.
which is much easier to clean also when you want to use it for other people.
Yeah, he's talking about this foam interface.
Yeah.
Okay.
And could you maybe share by mail how to order that one?
Lucas, I sent you a mail, Lucas, with and my son filled out that he ordered his Oculus before January the 4th of this year. So I don't know what you. And he got it for free. He got 2 of these new ones for free, so he was really happy.
Okay.
But it's also when you use it with more people, you can clean it, so that's nice.
Exactly. Yeah, especially for the assets that you mentioned, Lucas, that will be made available for the event. That will be very useful.
Yeah. Yes. So, and when it's available, I will share also the information from Leo. I think it's almost 5 o'clock. Herman just mentioned that he thought he would be there in the next session with this presentation. So perfect. We're going to do the next session. The session on June the 10th will diminish because then we have got the event. And the last question, maybe to the organization of the event, is I don't know how it is with the AVG, but is it possible to share participants who did, who were there on the list to be at the event, or what's smart? Because everybody is going to announce it and give an invitation to their relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
So right now, talking about AVG, it's going to be a masterclass inside of VR. The people who will attend in VR will have their normal name and their company listed beneath.
Yes.
And otherwise there's no data going on, data tracking or other kinds of stuff as of this moment. But
for instance, I'm curious next week who did already give up. There will be attending the meeting, so who are there? And I think you shouldn't publish it on the internet.
No. There's something we'll pick up tomorrow, but there is a schedule of getting information out there, and I think at some point we can also share exactly the list. But again, we need more invitations right now because we already started a bit late, of course.
Yes.
But we think with parties like HP and Microsoft and also the other 3 partners, I think we can just ramp that up if we will, share the invitation.
And Bart, as Hub members, do we also have to registrate? Everybody registrates? Or
interesting. Yes.
I actually.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just so we know how many people there will be attending, and it would be wise if everybody would be there.
All right. Okay, then I will do that too, and everybody should know that.
Okay, then I think I will close this meeting. Thank you everybody for your presentation and your being there. Part of the recordings will be placed on the website industrialrealityhub.com, so you can share it or look back at it. And then I will wish you all a very nice evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.